NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport reported Wednesday that former Alabama star quarterback Tua Tagovailoa received overwhelmingly positive reports on his dislocated hip from teams who examined him, per sources. Rappaport added that the MRIs came back clean. Tagovailoa's hip fracture is healed and there's no loss of blood flow. One source went on to tell Rappaport that Tagovailoa looked great. It's funny, we had Mike Renner on yesterday from Pro Football Focus, and we were talking about Joe Burrow and the difference between he and Tua. Take a listen.
I think it's close if Tua were to be fully healthy because, Tua's much younger. Tua's really never played bad football, even going back to his true freshman year.
All right. So you offer up the, hey, are we doing the same thing that the Browns did? That the Browns did. Sam Darnold was higher on, I was told, at least 28, 29, if not 31 teams' boards than he was on the Browns board. And the Browns decide, we like his leadership. We like how he is. John Dorsey, their GM at the time, said he reminded him of Brett Favre. Of course, he spent time in Green Bay. He's got this, I don't care gunslinger approach of Brett Favre. After a sophomore slump, and it should also be pointed out that Sam Darnold, who was younger, had only started for a year and a half at USC before he left for the NFL draft. I mean, Darnold continues to get better, has a higher ceiling. Darnold was 7-2 as a starting quarterback last year with a Jets team that people thought would win only a handful of games. So I've always believed in Sam Darnold. A little bit of this is confirmation bias, but a little bit of it is he was younger, he had a higher ceiling, and that's a little bit what this draft is about. Tua's younger, has a higher ceiling. There are some injury concerns, but if you eliminate those injury concerns, isn't Tua the better quarterback? And are the Bengals going to do what their in-state neighbor and rival did in drafting a guy because of all this other stuff about what he did in college and losing sight of the almost limitless potential of another quarterback in the draft? In other words, there's a good chance whoever drafts third is going to hit a home run. I think we're sitting here trying to convince ourselves that Joe Burrow, who had a great year, incredible year with incredible players. Everybody benefits. Joe Brady is wide receivers, but look, we agree they have great wide receivers. We agree they have a good offensive line. They had good play callers that they hadn't had in the past. We know that he's with the play callers with the Panthers, not the Bengals. Just in overall talent, if you just judge a guy based upon his own personal talent and attributes, I think most people would say if Tua wasn't hurt, he'd be the number one guy. All signs are pointing to he'll recover from the hip. If he recovers from the hip, the rest of the stuff is ankle injuries. So what are we doing here? Why are we convincing ourselves that Burrow is better when we all been told, and there's been nothing in his play to lead you to believe? Even the game that he got hurt in, he was incredible. They had 50 at the half against Mississippi State. They want to get one more touchdown. That's how good he was. That's how good they were. So when you're told a guy is crazy accurate, has a better arm, has equally good quarterback feel, is younger, has more upside, why are you convincing yourself otherwise? We just love the Joe Burrow story. We love Joe Burrow's kind of Joe Namath sort of way. We loved it, and we're blown away by the fact that LSU, we always thought hey, what would happen if LSU had a legit passing game and a legit quarterback? And they did what we thought would happen if LSU had a legit quarterback and a legit passing game. There you go. We don't usually get involved in the collective bargaining agreement. You know why? Because you don't actually care that much. That's why. It's really complex. Stating it becomes like politics, right? Where you make these statements and you're like, wow, is that true? And then there's fact checker, you're like, actually, it wasn't close to being true, but you could kind of make it out that way. We don't have a fact checker. It's boring to hear. It's much more interesting where Tom Brady will play, where Phillip Rivers will play. Like the Houston Astros stuff is a lot more interesting than, in the third year when the salary cap goes to, like, nobody cares. Don't really care. How does it affect me? If you sign it, we know there will be no lockout. That's really what I want to know. And who's going to be overpaid so that I could call them overpaid when they sign that new contract. So apparently the players have ratified, the player reps have passed by a vote of 17-14 with one abstention. I'm abstaining. Way to make your vote count, huh? I can't vote for or against. I'm going to abstain. Protest votes are actually votes to affirm, just so you know. I said that to Clay Travis, right? Like Clay Travis is like, hey, I didn't vote for Donald Trump. Yeah, you voted for a third-party candidate. You don't really get to get in on this argument, dude, till you vote for somebody. Sorry. Russell Wilson, Richard Sherman, J.J. Watt, Aaron Rodgers, all against the new agreement. Russell Wilson. The NBA and Major League Baseball are doing it right. Players come first. All NFL players deserve the same. We do not rush the next 10 years for today's satisfaction. I vote no. Eric Winston, who's, of course, former star lineman, head of the NFL PA. No one is rushing anything. We spent the last 100 days listening to our guys negotiating this. 300 days listening to our guys negotiating the deal. The proposal will be sent to all players, and if somebody doesn't like the terms, once they've seen the entire package, I understand. That's why every player gets a vote, and every vote counts. I'm happy to hop on the phone with any player at any time. Always, and anyone is always welcome to come to our annual rep meeting and join the numerous calls we've had or will have in the future. Let me know. Thank you, Eric Winston. I think I said this last week, right? This idea, anyone who has said, you're rushing this. This is the owners getting this thing done as quickly as possible. Anyone who says that immediately disqualifies their opinion. How does that work? Okay, I'm not saying that Russell Wilson's opinion generally should be disqualified. But if his opinion is, hey, they're rushing it, that simply says to me, you haven't called or talked to anybody. You haven't. Because if you had, you would know that it's been almost a year in the works. You may just be getting up to speed, but everybody else on that committee, they've been working on this thing for like a year, including the entire offseason last year. And while there are some things that can still be negotiated, much of this has already been negotiated. Like, this isn't just like the owners going like, hey, we wrote this thing up in the last day and a half. We're having some drinks. Like, why don't you sign it? Because everyone's been offered that sort of I've heard of a story before in my business where radio boss walks in and has the contract in hand and says, like, here's your extension. You're like, wait, can I look this over? Like, no. Like, that's unfair. That's not what this is. This is like a year of guys, player reps, like meeting after meeting. Can you? Oh, God, I don't care. And what's amazing is the things that people will fight for. If you're going to fight for something, like one of the things they're fighting for now, or they fought for, was that marijuana will no longer be, if you test positive for marijuana, you won't get suspended. Well, here's what most people who follow and know the NFL know. The drug test at the combine and the drug test every offseason is not actually a drug test to find out if you're addicted to drugs. It's an IQ test. It's an IQ test because you have to be an idiot to take drugs of any kind before the combine. They give you a specific window every offseason. They're like, hey, look, if you just don't test positive for recreational drugs during this window, we're going to test you. We can only test you once. If you don't test positive during that time, this is a rule now, not the new collective bargaining agreement. Okay, so anyone who's been suspended for recreational drugs in the NFL over this previous agreement, which is like the last 5 or 6 years, right? Feel free to say they're not very smart. They're dumb. Or maybe they're smart, but they made a really, really dumb call. And here's why. It's an IQ test. Hey, we're going to test you between the dates of March 15th and June 1st. They're telling you you can smoke as much weed as you want. You just can't before March 15th and June 1st until you get tested. If you test, as long as you don't get popped in that test, they will not test you for recreational drugs during the year. By CBA, they can test you for steroids, and you can pop up as testing positive for marijuana, but they cannot do anything to you. That's what you're fighting for? How many NFL players smoke weed? Think Tom Brady's lighting a joint on a Sunday night after a hard football game? Like, he can. I mean, he doesn't test positive like he can. Like, that's your jam. But this is much like the Roger Goodell's power thing. Most NFL guys, like, I'm never going to beat up my wife or girlfriend. I'm kind of okay on that category. If he wants to be the judge, jury, and executioner of crimes against the NFL, like, all right, what does my retirement benefits look like? That's what's improved in this new deal. That's the genius to what the owners know, which is like, these guys do in fact care about themselves. And it's okay. It's okay to care about yourself and to go like, hey, what's in it for me? Well, you have 14 padded practices all year. 14 padded practices. That's it. That's all you can have during the season. 14. That's all. That's very few. 14 padded practices all year, and you're going to get way better post-career benefits than you've ever gotten. And the minimum salary guys will make $100,000 more, which sounds like a lot of money to you and me. It sounds like a whole hell of a lot of money. If you're making $450 and you can make $550,000, that is like over a 20% increase. And those bottom rung guys, 60% of the members of the NFLPA, 60%, 60 make up the membership body of it. And those guys have, like, the average NFL career is like a 4-year span. So let me get this straight. We could fight for Roger Goodell to have less power, or the rich, the top level NFL players to get more money, or we can fight for the guys making $450 to make $550,000 and to get better post-career benefits. Which do you think we'll vote for? But I continue to contend that anybody, and this includes Russell Wilson, that has the chutzpah. Do you know what chutzpah means? Chutzpah means gall or nerve. Has the chutzpah to tweet out or to say out loud, we're rushing this thing. The owners are rushing it through. It's been almost a year of negotiation. Do you know how done you would be of negotiating something for a year? You're like, oh, I don't even care what's in it anymore. Just sign the damn thing. You ever negotiate something over a couple of days? Like, I just want to know. Literally every house I've ever bought or sold, like, you go back and forth a little bit and then finally, like, look, here's the price. Take it or leave it. Like, I'm done. I can't. What, you want the coffee table? Fine. Take the coffee table. Hey, what up? Doug Gottlieb here. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel here at Fox Sports Radio. You can catch my show, all the shows on Fox Sports Radio, unique interviews, strong takes, just interesting discussion on the sports topic of the day, of the week, of the month. It's all encompassing. It's everything you need right here on YouTube. Subscribe.